Well, it was a interesting enough story, I suppose. I just moved back here from Tennessee and moved in with my father at the time. Left uh, left a good paying job, left a home I owned, um, left my ex-wife now, then wife at the time, back in Tennessee, loaded the kids up into the van and came out here. Um, that was my best thinking at the time. When I got here, I quickly lost a job, the job that I had. I had transferred from the same company. When I got to California, I had a job waiting for me, but my drug use completely obliterated my usefulness to that company, and so I was soon fired. Where I had the kids staying at the time, the babysitter was like, your kids can stay here, and you just have to, why don't you go start trying to set up benefits for the kids, or start trying to get some general assistance, start doing some job hunting, and she actually, they put out their hand. Like I was allowed to stay at the babysitter's sister's house across the street. It was a really cool scenario, which I managed to completely mess up. But I was coming and going and not doing the things that I needed to do. I was being, they just didn't know when or where I was at all times. I was very obviously not looking for a job. I was very obviously not getting things set up for the boys and myself, and they were spending longer and longer over there, and to the point to where they were left wondering, well, how do I start to garner resources for these children? Because it was, two extra kids in the household starts to bring on extra needs and wants, and they wound up calling CPS to see what it was that they could do for the kids. And the next thing I know, the CPS is knocking at my mother's door. I love Paige Jones is amazing. I was blessed with what, if anyone asks me to this day, I will tell them is the best social worker that CPS has. She is amazing, and what I can say is how she was instrumental in me being successful in what I need to do. She always kept the best interests of the boys at heart, and she yet remained very, very flexible. If I was in treatment, residential treatment, and I was addressing my alcohol and drug concerns, she would allow the kids, my boys, to come home on the weekends and stay with my mom, stay with grandma. And she managed to find a really amazing foster family that were willing to watch the boys, but were very open with their communication with my mother at the time. So I knew that my mom always knew what the boys were up to. So it wasn't such a mystery as to where my boys were and what they were doing. But Paige also focused on the need for me to focus on myself, because I was going through, by this time, the boy's mother, who I left in Tennessee, was back in California, and so she was part of the case as well. Paige did a really good job on working with me and allowing me time to develop my own program away from what the kid's mother was doing at the time. And I think she was really understanding, and because I was more concerned in what she was doing than what I was doing. And Paige was very patient and tolerant with me, but very firm, and made no qualms about what it was that was going to be being asked of me. If I wanted to get my boys back, this is what I need to do. Your boys are safe. This is where they are. You do what you need to do. They can still come home with family. And the that piece was really flexible with my boys. I was really, really blessed the way that got to work out, and that I can't thank her enough for doing what she did and finding the home that she did, and just really, like my mother talked to her as much as I did. You know what I mean? If not more. So that was kind of cool. Yeah. You know, it kind of made it feel like she was family. So that was cool. I have to give shout out to the 12-step program. That has allowed me to. They were requiring that I do meetings. Requiring that I do 12-step meetings, and I started to do that, and it just became kind of something I did. But once I actually got involved with the program and started working it, and taking the suggestions that are offered and actually applying it to my daily life, I was able to sort through and drastically alter the way that I looked at things and take a look at my behavior and where that had led me astray. You know, it vaulted my spiritual maintenance for sure. You know what I mean? Like I was spiritually bankrupt at the time, and 12-step programs helped me get back on the road to being absolutely spiritually maintained. And I think that is I can't say enough about that. That's vital. Without that particular piece in my life, I'm right back where I came from. Another thing that they were offering at the time was individual counseling, and I had a counselor who sat me down and really worked with me one-on-one and kind of allowed me to, because I didn't recognize a lot of things that I was going through until I started talking to some of these professionals. Like I didn't realize I was grieving, you know what I mean, over the absolute decay of my marriage. I didn't realize I was in a lot of the states that I was just manic at the time, you know, and it was for good reason. My life was falling apart, had fallen apart, but you know, the individual counseling helped me kind of take a look at some things in a manner that I hadn't before. I would say one of the programs that I got to go to, like I went to 3 different residential treatment programs, and it wasn't until the third one that it really caught on. And I have to give thanks to Danelle, the program manager at SVRC. She's no longer with us, but I am absolutely blessed to have met that woman, and she and SVRC provided an atmosphere that was paramount in me being able to recover. I've tried, I was at the end of my rope. And it was all or nothing, and SVRC and the program manager Danelle came through for me in a manner that really helped me feel at ease stepping away from the life that I was living into whatever my new life was going to look like. And of course, like I mentioned beforehand, the foster family that my boys were with were awesome. The fact that my CPS social worker allowed my mom to bring the boys to come visit me at residential. You know, I didn't have to try and coordinate with some party that I hadn't known before. Like it got to stay very family-like. I didn't have to have a stranger bringing my kids to me, you know, and being, you know, strict about what time that they had available. Like it was really flexible. Like my mom was like, you know, okay, you can see the program will let you see the boys at this time. Well, that's when we'll be there, you know, and they would show up, and it got to stay a very there's lots of little spurts of family. You know, it just felt like family was still, like I was walking away from this life, change was occurring, and yet the one constant that got to stay there because of the way that things were organized was family. Like, and that was neat. It didn't feel so much like this looming system of CPS or this, the ideals that we get in our head when CPS first comes into our life, or